Well, hello there, and welcome to this episode of the Terri Cole Show. That I want to start with a question. Do you ever wonder why you struggle so hard with setting boundaries with others, speaking up when you have something to say, asserting a limit when you don't want to do something? Do you ever wonder? Well, if you're nodding your head, then this episode is for you, because in this episode, I'm going to be hitting the top 5 reasons you don't set boundaries. So before we get into it, if you happen to be new to my YouTube channel, introduce yourself in the comments, say hello, because we are a friendly group. Please make sure that you subscribe and hit the bell icon so that you get notified every time I roll out something new, which happens to be every Tuesday and every Thursday. And I wouldn't want you to miss a thing. If you don't know me, my name is Terri Cole. I'm a licensed psychotherapist, a relationship expert, and the author of Boundary Boss, which you can get at boundarybossbook.com. I want to say thank you so much for all of your participation. I love, love, love it. You know, I read all the things. This is like other people watch Netflix on the weekends. I just read my YouTube comments. And I love to highlight your comments and your questions. So this is from Angie Vera 7362 under the episode, the video, Kinda Bored, 3 Ways to Rekindle the Spark in Your Relationship. And Angie says, I've been yearning for a female mentor for some time now. I'm so blessed to have found you. Thank you for your wisdom. I know you're going to help me and countless others through this life. Well, thanks, Angie. That really warms my heart, and I appreciate you taking the time to say so. All right, let's jump into today's content. So why is it hard to set boundaries? Why is it hard, even when we're in the moment? What are the top reasons that people don't do it? What are the top reasons that you're not doing it right now in your life when you want to? Well, let's start with probably the biggest one, which is fear of rejection. And we all have different reasons as to why rejection seems so terrifying. So we can start with the basic ones that are very natural and visceral and biological, we can say, right? Is that back in the day, in the cave people days, if you were rejected by your group or your tribe, you would most likely die. So there really is sort of a built-in fear of that we have as human beings as like a survival instinct. So that's not being dramatic, that's just true. So we're kind of wired to want to avoid rejection. I think a lot of it is that we have this fear that other people will not understand what we're saying, and that will get them to reject us, which of course we don't want. You may be worried, right, that if you are saying something or asking for something, that the other person is going to judge you. Because when we think about rejection, that's a big terminology that encompasses, it's like an umbrella for a lot of other actual experiences underneath it. So another part of rejection is being judged, right? We don't want people to think that what we're saying is stupid, or that we're being petty, or that we're being greedy. All of these projection fears that we have when it comes to asking for what we want or saying no, right? There's all these different reasons why we feel the way that we do. But it's important for you to look at your own fear of rejection. And a lot of times we have a profound fear of rejection because of our childhood experiences with rejection. And this could be family of origin stuff, and this could also be school stuff and middle school stuff. And it's not just family of origin. That's one thing. But maybe you were rejected in school. Maybe you had bad social experiences, and that would impact how you feel as well. So fear of rejection is a real thing. And if you're feeling it, don't judge yourself. And here's the thing, you guys, with all this, I'm going to give you ideas of things that you can do and ways that you can sort of more deeply understand what's getting in the way of you asserting healthy boundaries in your life in the guide. So you can get that at terricole.com/guide. But I also want you to know that this is normal. These are the things that everyone sort of struggles with when it comes to boundaries, because I've been doing this long enough as a therapist, and I've been doing this long enough with boundaries to hear the same things over and over again. So I don't know if it makes you feel better, but P.S. You're in good company, and you're certainly not alone if you have a profound fear of rejection. All right, number 2, lack of awareness, right? Maybe you don't have a clear sense of what now let's say, again, let me break down quickly, what are your boundaries? Your preferences, your desires, your limits, and your deal breakers, which are your non-negotiables. And if you have a lack of self-awareness around what those things are, it's kind of like you may not be able to be proactive when it comes to your boundaries because you only know it when someone steps over it, or you only know it when you're pissed off or hurt or upset. Make sense? So I think that in this area, the lack of awareness, I'm going to give you some questions in the guide that you can ask yourself about how you're feeling, right? This is a perfect place for you to really identify what you might be tolerating in your life. Because when you can start to get more concrete about what's not working, then you can start to be more concrete about being proactive when it comes to sharing and asserting your preferences, your desires, your limits, and your deal breakers. But again, so much of the time, and at least my own young experience with boundaries, is that I wouldn't have been able to articulate what they were in a proactive way. That was the time in my life when I started learning about myself, what I liked, what I didn't like, what I wanted, what I didn't. And again, remember, your boundaries, the way I want you to think about your personal boundaries, is that this is your own personal rules of engagement to let other people know what's okay with you and what's not okay with you. So even just getting clarity on the fact that you have a right and an obligation to create your own rules of engagement, because you do. And when we don't have those rules, and like it doesn't have to be an actual book of rules, right? It's we're letting people know. We're setting people up to succeed. We're managing their expectations when we tell the truth about how we feel, about what we want, about what doesn't work for us. Because the thing with boundaries, why there's no one size fits all, is because you're all so different. You have your lived life experience, right? The one you've already lived. Our childhoods are all lived experiences that heavily impact our preferences, limits, desires, deal breakers, right? So there's no way to just say, this is what you should do. But yes, I can say this is what you should do. Figure out what your preferences, desires, limits, and deal breakers are. And I will help you do that in the guide. This is how you're going to raise your self-awareness so that you can succinctly, transparently, accurately set boundaries that reflect who you are, that protect you, that protect your relationships. Because really, that's what they're all about, right? This is what boundaries are for, is it protects us, our dignity, but also our relationships with other people. Third thing that gets in the way of you setting boundaries is guilt or obligation, where we feel guilty, especially if we've been a people pleaser or a high-functioning codependent, and we've been over-functioning or doing too much, saying yes to all the people. Suddenly, the thought of saying no can really bring up a ton of guilt, where you feel bad, you feel selfish, you feel wrong. But I think that you have to really think about, like, we have to question our guilt. When we are feeling guilty about something, again, there's nothing wrong with some guilt, right? Some guilt can be very healthy, right? Because if you do something wrong, let's say you snap at someone, you say something mean because you're a human being and that may happen, guilt can propel you towards what we'd call a reparative action, where you might go apologize. You might write a note. You might say you're sorry or ask for forgiveness or whatever it is, or just take responsibility. hey, I'm really sorry I was in a bad mood before. I'm sorry I snapped at you. There's no excuse to treat you that way or whatever. So I'm not talking about appropriate guilt, because there is appropriate guilt. I'm talking about chronic guilt or a chronic sense of obligation. And when we lean towards being codependent, we have an overly developed sense of obligation to lots and lots of people. I mean, I felt obligated to people I barely knew at times. If they felt like I should be obligated to them, I would get completely sucked into that vortex in my young life. Or if I could help them, I would help them, even if it wasn't in my best interest to do so, right? Even if I had something else to do. So again, we have to look at guilt and obligation and look at how much of what we're doing when we're over-functioning and not having healthy boundaries, how much of that is self-sabotaging behavior. What is happening for us that we are self-abandoning to sort of please another person? And I'm not saying that it's never appropriate, right? It sometimes in long-term relationships, we do have to compromise. I don't consider that the same as self-abandoning though, right? Because compromising is called being in a marriage or being in a long-term relationship. We have to compromise. This is the part of how we make it work. That's not the same as endlessly self-abandoning to please others because you feel obligated or because you don't want to feel guilty. So guilt is a really important aspect to get in touch with yourself. How much of your time do you spend feeling guilty, and how much of your behavior towards others is driven by obligation or guilt? So I'll have those questions for you in the guide, terricole.com/guide. Another huge block to establishing and holding boundaries is fear of conflict. And this is something that I think is so important that we talk about, because not many of us do conflict well. Especially, of course, if you're conflict avoidant, then you really don't want to do it at all. But that's where a lot of self-abandonment can come in, where I think we have to really change our minds about conflict. Let's just think of it as honestly communicating, right? It's okay for someone to disagree with you. It's okay for someone to be upset with you. Like, it actually is. And I want you to start really in your own mind, allowing that to be true for you. You can still love people and have them feel disappointed that you're not going to do the thing you said you'd do. Maybe you need to course correct for your mental wellness. You have to be able to give yourself permission to do that. And again, I do try to remind you guys a lot, but I want you to think about this from the point of view that you're not that fragile, that you can withstand a little bit of conflict. You're going to be okay. Most of your relationships are not that fragile, right? Like, everyone's going to be okay. And I'm not talking about conflict. If you're dealing with a domestic violence situation or any kind of violence, that is not what I'm talking about, which I think you know, but I always feel compelled to say it. That is a whole other conversation. I'm talking about our emotional terror that we have regarding conflict. If you're conflict avoidant, it's almost like you'll do anything to avoid an uncomfortable conversation. And a lot of times that means we do that by not setting boundaries, right? Because we think that a boundary conversation can be uncomfortable. Yeah, maybe. Or you let someone cross your boundaries because it's too threatening for you to say something. And either one of those scenarios, that fear of conflict, is painful. And I think it's important to look back. So we all have these downloaded blueprints. And when it comes to conflict, I grew up in a home that was conflict averse, which meant nobody was allowed to be mad. That was one of the forbidden emotions. That didn't mean people weren't mad, right? It just meant you weren't allowed to be mad. And so therefore, you had a lot of people shoving their anger down. But of course, it still comes out. as human beings, like, we're not powerful enough to decide that we're not going to have that experience. Like, no, we actually don't have the power to erase emotions because they're inconvenient, because we don't like them. We don't. So there's something really important about understanding your background when it comes to conflict. It's really helpful when you can actually get a handle on why you feel the way that you do. And the last block to getting boundaries in place in your life is lack of confidence, right? Feeling like you don't know how to do it. You don't know how to enforce them. You're not sure what to say. Worry that you won't be taken seriously. Worry that you're going to use the wrong language or do it wrong or pick the wrong time, which is why in Boundary Boss, the book, and I definitely have done other videos on this, you can create a proactive boundary success plan, which means that you're thinking about it ahead of time. I mean, unless it's a spontaneous boundary, and then we just got to, then that's in the moment, right? If it's happening with a stranger cutting you in line or something. But so much of the ones that really create a fear of doing it wrong are the people in our life, the people that we love, the people who we have relationships with that matter to us. So this is something that, just look at it from the perspective that you're going to grow your confidence. It's okay right now if you don't feel fully confident, but there are steps that you can take. And how you feel matters. Like, the most important part of this with setting boundaries, and why I care that you do it, is that what you think, how you feel, what you want matters. And it needs to matter to you more than what anyone else wants, thinks, or feels. Literally, your wants, thoughts, and feelings have to be the most important things to you. It doesn't mean you can't compromise once you know them, but knowing them is so incredibly important. So, number 5 is lack of confidence, but I don't want you to worry about that, because that is something that as you start building these skills, you will naturally become more confident, but you have to give yourself permission to build the skills to begin with. Because remember, you guys, nobody taught us how to do this stuff. Hey, you wouldn't feel bad about not being fluent in a language that you never studied. This is the same exact thing. So don't sweat it. Just get committed to learning it. I hope that this episode helped you, inspired you. Hopefully it resonated with you. If so, please share it with your world. Don't forget to go get the guide, terricole.com/guide. I hope you guys have an amazing week. And as always, take care of you.